Hello, and welcome to the Spiritual and Physical Health Champ. I'm your host, Kimberly King. My guest again is Stephanie Nichols. Stephanie is a featured writer on my blog, where she writes on topics of health and fitness. Stephanie has an eclectic collection of skills and interests, including work as a freelance writer, a labor doula, and a former personal trainer. Welcome, Stephanie.
Good to be here again.
I'm glad to have you back. We talked already about some myths, and I just wanted to touch on that. You know, what are some of the top, another three, let's say, health and fitness myths that are out there today, and the truths that surround them?
Yep, there's so many myths out there. So I think the first one I would like to address is probably important for men as well, but especially for women, that our value as a human being is not inversely proportional to what it says on the scale. So when I was working in the gym, I met a lot of people, and some of them, in their late teens, early 20s, where they haven't necessarily come into their own about knowing who they are as people and who they want to be. There's still a lot of pressure on them to conform to what society says is beautiful and even healthy. So this one girl who, yes, she did need to lose a significant amount of weight, but while we were going through the proposed schedule for her personal training, I turned away from the computer where I was showing her the information, and I looked at her and I said, I'm not going to be one of those voices, just one more of those voices that says, you will be more valuable as a human being if you lose 100 pounds. Because I don't think we should see ourselves or see anyone else as more valuable if they're thinner or more fit. I mean, recently I saw that the only woman who has successfully completed the Ninja Challenge, and I don't know if you saw that video, but it's remarkable. And I could sit and drool. I know I will never be able to do what she did, but I'm valuable, just not quite as flexible and strong as she is. And I think, if you get into some kind of fitness profession, people may make assumptions about what you think. And also, I mean, my personality, I'm not a Jillian Michaels. I'm not going to make you work out till you throw up. But when my son asked me, oh, well, you don't push your clients hard, they don't get sore and all of these things, I thought, oh, no, I can do all of that with a smile on my face and I can make it happen. Yeah. But more important than losing that weight is just getting that energy and getting a better sense of I'm doing something good for myself. I think it's that we were both at the Writers' Conference this year when, in passing, Ted Dekker mentioned the if-then kind of situation. If I do this, then I will be happy or valuable or whatever. Right. And we can't impose that on ourselves or somebody else. I mean, we're supposed to make the most of every day. And today I may be 20, 30, 40 or more pounds overweight, but it doesn't mean today has to be a bad day.
I so agree with you with that. Our value isn't in the scale. Our value is in whether we can complete a 5K run. Our value is found in who we are.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the first thing that happens for me when I start doing something. Before I see any difference at all, I just have an attitude change right away. When I make a healthier food choice, or I go for a walk when I don't feel like it, or I say, you know what, I promised myself I would lift weights today, so I do it, even if I don't feel it. Like, I think 99.9% of the time feel better, if not 100% of the time, as soon as I start. But sometimes it's that oomph to get started. You have to sometimes kick your own backside.
Yeah, absolutely. And your second myth?
I would say, being a woman of a certain age, I'm very I'm very aware that some people think if you haven't gotten into an exercise program, by the time you are in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or beyond, it's too late to start. And sure, I'm not going to run the Boston Marathon. I'm not going to walk or crawl the Boston Marathon either. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to walk more often. It doesn't mean that, I mean, if I can't bench press ever 300 pounds, I'm not going to cry. That's okay. Yeah. But I can do a good resistance program. I can set up a resistance program for a little old lady who can only lift a 1 or 2 pound weight. It still doesn't mean she shouldn't keep moving. Yeah. And, you know, keep moving as long as she can. And I think when we were at the gym, we had a couple of ladies that I always said, when I grow up, I want to be just like them. One of them was 90. As long as she was physically healthy, she came in. She hooked her cane over the arm of the treadmill, and she walked at a very slow pace, but she came in and used the treadmill. And if that isn't an encouragement to anyone, I thought we need to have a party just for her. And another lady who actually took resistance training from me was not quite that old, but almost. And it's great because, you know, if you can lift the 300 pounds and you're only lifting 2 pounds, well, it's probably not the best idea. But you don't need to be discouraged because, and if you have eating restrictions, you know, someone says, oh, you've got to try this way of eating, it's the best thing out there, but it doesn't work for you. As we mentioned last time, there isn't a one-size-fits-all. Right. So you can eat healthier. You know, most of us don't drink enough water, so we can add 1 more glass a day. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, or we can, I once had a lady my age actually ask me, why would you eat fruits and vegetables anyway? And so it was kind of shocking to me that she got to be in her 50s and never came across the reasons to eat fruits and vegetables. Wow. I met a girl in her 20s who said she never met a vegetable she liked. So that was disheartening. But I would encourage people, especially, as you mentioned last time, we live in a country where you can go to the store and you can get an abundance of things. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe you don't like your Brussels sprouts, but that's okay. Try something else. And I mean, we're not 2 or 3 anymore. We don't, you know, we shouldn't look at our food and say, I know I won't like that. I'm not going to try it, but I know because I know I won't like it. And we might surprise ourselves.
I totally can understand about, you know, starting into health and fitness later in life. That is exactly the story that I wrote for the second cup of hot apple cider. I call it Functional Makeover Inside and Out. And it talked about how I was probably, you know, like sports and things like that, but I was an anti-athlete, you know. It wasn't until later in life that I started to realize, you know, wow, I kind of like the walking thing, and that turned into hiking and, you know, other sort of activities, but you know, you're right, we don't have to be in our to start into health and fitness and healthy as well. Again, I was one of those people that did not like vegetables, so I didn't realize that, you know, you didn't have to cook them, you know, to eat them.
Exactly.
Have cooked vegetables, that's the thing you did. So,
well, yeah, and when I was growing up, it was canned vegetables, and it was vegetables boiled until they were mush. I mean, even with my own kids, when I started to stir fry them, the kids gobbled them up, and I thought, why didn't I learn this sooner?
You're right. It's never too late to get started on a healthy journey.
Absolutely. And my husband and I are taking one courageous step. I don't know if you know anything about Horseshoe Resort north of Barrie, but
I'm familiar with it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not far from there. They run I think it's called the Warrior Challenge. Well, we're not quite that crazy, but we are spending a day there. Zip lining, which is exciting. I mean, I don't know that it's very physically challenging. You just sit there, but it takes courage. And they've got a climbing. Well, it's more like a climbing obelisk. It's not exactly a wall, but And my hubby, he's not quite sure he's going to try the Euro bungee, but I thought I might, even if I have to do it at the end of the day, because you're in a harness and you're jumping up and down on a trampoline. But, you know, up and down is fine. It would be the flips that are expected of a person who's trying this out. And I have inner ear issues that once I get dizzy, it takes a long time to stop being dizzy. And I figure if I do it at the end of the day, worst comes to worst, I will close my eyes and my hubby can lead me to the car.
But you make a good point that, you know, we don't have to restrict ourselves, our activities to, you know, a fitness class, you know, aerobics, but to venture out and find out other sorts of activities that you like. I learned that I love tennis. I can't play it very well, but it's fun. You know, I like to get out there and do it. And again, I didn't learn that till later in life. So I think, you know, your point is well taken that we need to try different activities and not just say, okay, well, that, you know, I don't even want to look at, but consider different things that you might never have done before.
And I mean, it's so great for relationships, for families. I mean, my hubby likes to walk and hike, and now I'm becoming, you know, enjoying it more. And I do admit that ever since I worked at the gym when I was in my 40s, he was the one that was always walking like there was a fire someplace. And after I started working at the gym, I didn't even notice, but I was the one that was ahead and he was lagging behind. Wasn't even on purpose.
Like you're about in your 20s.
Well, I figured.
And you're a grandmother?
Not yet, but one of these days. I'll maybe be able to keep up with the grandbabies if I keep on going.
Yeah, and that is an actual very good goal. You know, when I look at my parents and the activity that they can maintain with their grandchildren and their grandchildren from age 7 up to 27, and they still take them camping and everything, and they're in their mid-70s themselves. So my parents are a great example of the quality of life, you know, when you keep active, how it affects you as you get older.
Absolutely.
You had a third myth?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of myths out there, and this one has probably been addressed by many people, but I was thinking just in broad terms, the myth of what happens to a woman's body when she exercises. You know, basically the yes and the no's of it. I mean, I did sit across the room from a lady when I was training, and she was used to being very athletic. So she was very used to a very low, for a woman, body fat percentage. And there's a lot of debate about what a healthy body fat percentage is. But women should know that we do need more fat than men, which may not seem fair, but it keeps protects our organs, keeps them functioning properly. And mostly, unless we're incredibly athletic, it's highly unlikely we're ever going to see under 20% body fat. That's very difficult to attain for a woman.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, some women hate the idea of developing muscle definition. I don't know what scares them so much. I do know that I'm not a fan of the Terminator series, don't get me wrong. But when I saw the second one, and I mean, this was before Photoshopping, and this wasn't her stunt double. Linda Hamilton's, it was her legs. And they weren't the thin, shapely legs that, you know, you would usually say, oh, what beautiful legs that woman has. There was definition in her thigh between her quadricep and her hamstring, and I didn't even know that was attainable for a woman. I don't think I'll ever get there, but it is actually one of my long-term goals.
Now, you strength training yourself. Let's see your muscle there.
Well, my muscle isn't much of a muscle. I've got a very girly muscle. There's a little definition, teeny tiny bit.
Yeah,
I do like going for heavier weights. I mean, in general principle, you know, heavier weights, fewer reps is what, you know, you're building your muscle, and the lower weights and more reps is toning. But that's just general, as you know. So
women don't need need to be afraid of bulking up and getting, really big muscles and
No, if that's their goal, they're going to have to address the eating, because certainly you can't just exercise and eat whatever you want and expect your body to change all that much.
right.
As I said to people too, and I guess this might count as a fourth, but it sort of falls into the whole broad spectrum of, you can't lose weight in one particular area. If I did crunches from morning till night, I would have very well developed ab muscles, but the fat would basically come off all my body from the calories I'm burning.
Yeah.
And it may or may not show in my abs as much as I want it to. So people don't realize, I mean, you can spot train as far as building the muscle, but as far as spot training to get rid of the fat in that area, our body just doesn't cooperate in that way.
No, unfortunately not. I know women that, they have issues with their thighs. I have issues with my stomach. Other people have issues with their arms. And you're right. You can't get rid of that specific area of fat. You can work on
Right.
muscle, yeah. But yeah.
It sort of melts off all over, hopefully, if you've got a good program and a good eating ritual.
Yes.
And it's not about denying yourself of everything you like. The one thing that I did hear that I really liked was to eat well 6 out of 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself that one day where you're not counting calories, you're not counting carbs or sugar or anything else. And if your particular love is a big piece of cheesecake like mine is, that one day a week, you shouldn't feel bad about it. If I'm eating cheesecake 7 days a week, that's another story.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Stephanie Nicol, for your expert advice. And to learn more about Stephanie, visit her website at www.stephbethnicol.com. STEPHBETHNICKEL.com. This hangout has been brought to you by the Spiritual and Physical Health Challenge. Visit my website at www.kimberlyqueen.com to learn when the next challenge begins. Blessings on your journey to health.